Chairman Hurd, Ranking Member, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today on this important topic. My name is Grace Bulltail. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I'm a citizen of the Crow tribe in Montana. On August 24, 2019, my niece, Kaysara Stops Pretty Places, was murdered just days after her 18th birthday. I served on the Not Invisible Act Commission as a family member. Like I'm doing here today, family members shared their experiences with law enforcement and the justice system at the commission hearings and site visits. For many, those hearings would be the only time that their stories were received and recorded. In a process that we commissioners navigated as best we could despite the rushed and compressed timeline. I take this charge seriously in addressing the barriers family members face in seeking justice. These systematic failures and disproportionate challenges were familiar to myself and fellow commissioners serving as advocates of family members. Too commonly, we are leading our own investigations and pressuring the justice system to make what little progress we have in our loved ones' cases. My family spent years begging law enforcement to investigate the homicide of my niece. It is only after our activism and advocacy that we have made any progress. However, that progress has been interrupted by erratic MMIP policy priorities limiting resources available to us. At the hearing in Billings, Montana, the Missing and Murdered Unit regional agent in charge testified to the Not Invisible Act Commission that MMU officers would not be reassigned to other BIA law enforcement duties. That is not the state of affairs now, as the primary MMU agent that we know to be working on Kaysara's case had been assigned to other duties, including the BIA Chief of Police, then eventually resigned from the MMU, and has now returned to the BIA role. For 10 months now, we have been asking the MMU to schedule a half-hour phone call with our family to discuss their progress on Kaysara's case. The response we got was that they do not have time to talk to us. We need the MMU to become functional again, given that the law enforcement in the county meets as family members with outright hostility. The county did not tell us until 4 years after her death that the Bighorn County still had several of Kaysara's facial bones in their custody. As the county coroner cremated her remains against our wishes, these were the only physical remains that we had to place in her grave, which we then had to reopen to bury alongside her ashes. Many more teenage girls have gone missing in the region since Kaysara's disappearance, and several were also found deceased. Our trauma is revisited in seeing their families met with indifference from those charged with investigating their deaths. It is us family members and advocates demanding measurable action in addressing this ongoing genocide of our Indigenous girls and women. We are not elected officials. We are not invited to provided a seat at the table in addressing this crisis as is protocol in government-to-government relations with our tribal communities. Our governments are too indifferent unless it impacts them personally. As a commissioner, I prioritize recommendations that centered family members to empower those actually doing the work in our communities. President Trump signed the Not Invisible Act into law in his first term. The federal government should uphold its commitment to addressing the crisis, reinstate the Not Invisible Act Commission report to the Department of Justice site platform, and implement those recommendations. Provide resources to the law enforcement agencies and specifically the MMU. The erratic and chaotic state of the MMIP policy implementation delays our hard-fought efforts in realizing justice for our relatives. And as we know, many of these cases are solvable. Thank you for the opportunity to provide my testimony.
Thank you, Dr. Bulltail, for your testimony. The chair now recognizes Dr. Middleman for 5 minutes.